Welcome to China Paradigm, a show powered by Dashi Consulting, where we interview seasoned entrepreneurs and experienced managers in China about their business and experience in the country. Hello everyone, I'm Matthieu David, the founder of Dashi Consulting and its podcast, China Paradigm. Joining me today is Philippe Ricard, the founder and still CEO of the restaurants called La Creperie. For those who have lived in Shanghai and now in Hong Kong and in Vietnam as well, they all know La Creperie. I think that's kind of those restaurants which we can call an institution because they have been in the place for 13 years. And you know when a restaurant becomes an institution when all the restaurants around them have changed. When a Greek restaurant becomes a French restaurant in front of him, and other restaurants are closing and opening again under different names, but they are still here. La Creperie is still on Dongpinglu, still in Kerry Center, and that's why I'm calling those restaurants an institution. And I went yesterday to your place in Dongpinglu to check what the post-coronavirus would be. The restaurant, but also the people inside and how the place was. Still the same, very nice lighting, very nice environment, a lot of effort also decoration, music just right at the right level in terms of volume, and very welcoming staff. The only differences I could see is that change in hours, in opening hours, and the fact that you insist on the fact that everyone is green card in Shanghai, that they have this green QR code. Anyway, I'm not going too much in detail. Thanks for being with us, Philippe. I'm very happy to have you here. And as I said before, La Creperie is for me a little bit like a well-known place like Starbucks, because I can tell someone, oh, let's go to La Creperie. I don't have to send the address. I don't have to tell them what it is. They know it. That's why I'm calling it an institution. Thanks for being with us again, Philippe. And so what's the situation now of your restaurants?
Hi, Mike. Thank you for all these nice words about La Creperie. Yeah, it's true that we've been now in Shanghai for more than 13 years. And yeah, it's always pleasant to hear that we are named a bit some kind of institution. At least we try to really do our best to always provide a quality in terms of product and service that is very stable. And I think that's what we've been recognized for, and I think this is what makes the success today of our restaurant. I don't think we are not here to pretend to be something we are not, like a fine dining or but what we try to do is to provide a full experience, as we say, to our customers. And it goes to a lot of details, like the music, like the small salt and pepper you would find on the tables. So that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to make the people travel when they come to our restaurant with the food and the environment.
Could you tell us more about now the number of restaurants you have? I didn't say precisely how many restaurants you have and what kind of restaurant you have, but as far as I understand, you have 3 restaurants in Shanghai, 2 with this specificity of crepe, which is like the small French pancakes for people who know French food, and for people who don't know, actually, that's for whom I will explain. It's very light pancakes from Brittany, and you can eat them breakfast, lunch, dinner with different inside different ingredients. You have 2 of them, one of them Dongpinglu, one in Kerry Center, and you have La Cabane, which is more kind of food from the Alps, if I understand correctly, with fondue and so on. And then you have one in Hong Kong and one in Vietnam as well. Is it correct? Or
Yes,
I missed some?
Yeah, that's right. 3 restaurants in Shanghai, so 2 La Creperie and 1 La Cabane, which is like effectively in a restaurant that's specialized on the food from Savoy, so the French Alps. And 1 restaurant in Hong Kong now. We had to close one in last January, but we were kicked out by the building because they were renovating the whole thing. And we are now looking for some new opportunities in Hong Kong. And we have one restaurant in Ho Chi Minh City, that has been open already for many years. We opened December 2011 there.
And you are living in Hong Kong?
Yes, in fact, I've been based in Shanghai for 14 years, yes, almost. And now I've been in Hong Kong for 2 years. And it's also nice to see this city from the inside.
Today is the 20th of April, 2020, and everyone is thinking about one thing, which is the crisis sparked by the virus. And the first businesses which have been impacted are restaurants, coffee shops, places where you have to go to consume something. Even though now you can deliver more and more. I got some statistics. If we look at the restaurants in China, it's about 2/3 of them would got closed. And about coffee shops is about 80%. The right statistics is, I think, 85 or 88%. Anyway, it's massive. And that has lasted for some time, for weeks. And even when you went back, I understood from what your restaurant display as information that you open only for lunch or only for dinner afterwards, evening. How was the situation for you more in details, and how has it been financially speaking? Because I believe that what happened to you can be very instructive also for people currently in the West, in France, in Europe, in the US. They have to know how to react, what to do, and how to soften the loss, maybe with online delivery or maybe by readjusting and doing different things.
Yes, indeed, it's been a terrible time. Mostly for hotels, restaurants. It's been really challenging, to find ways to survive. But I think we are lucky because our restaurant has been in Shanghai for so many years. So we have a cash flow first that helps us to survive this time. Also, we have a good team. I'm very happy and proud of them because when the time came when we had to shut down the restaurant for a few weeks. It was not easy on to restart. They all agreed, for example, to reduce the time they would be working and the salary that they would get in proportion. And this is something that helps our business. So it's everybody's efforts that makes the difference at the end. And this is something that's going to help us to rebuild and to face the situation.
What was your first reaction when you knew you had to close down? Was it that you would go to contact the Dianping Ulema to see how you could deliver more food? Was it that you would send an email to all your past clients, but I'm not sure you have the contact all of them, or WeChat or whatever, to tell them we can deliver to you? Or you had to close even the kitchen? What were your first actions?
In fact, we didn't have choice. We had to close everything. The kitchen had to be closed. We couldn't do any delivery for a long time. And then finally, when we could reopen, that's one of the main change that we decided to operate, is that we wanted to push even more the delivery, because that's one way to also increase our sales and make possible the fact that we are going to cover all the fixed costs, I would say. And it's working. We've done the same in Hong Kong and Ho Chi Minh City, where we face the same situation, and where delivery is getting more and more popular. There are many restaurants I know who didn't do delivery before who started to do it. In La Creperie, we've always been very cautious with delivery because we wanted to make sure that we keep a quality in our products that is really at the highest. And when you do delivery, sometimes, well, you don't control the chain, and it means that at the end, at the customer's place, it could be different. But we've been taking this time, in fact, to rework our recipes, our presentation, our packaging, to make sure that the product at the end is still the same. On the feedback we get at the moment is very good. So we are going to push even more this possibility of delivery.
That's actually very interesting to see how you thought about delivery, not only by delivering just the product to eat, but also the packaging and surroundings. Would you mind sharing how you could actually give a similar experience to people who go to your restaurant, because they don't go only for the food to your restaurant, they also go for the environment. When you go to La Creperie, you feel Brittany. When you go to La Cabane, you feel you're in the French Alps. You have like ski sets, you have like paintings, you feel you are in the French Alps. How have you thought about how to convey still this feeling in some way, even through delivery?
That's a very good question. That's a very challenging. That's very challenging. I don't know honestly how I could meet this option, but it's I think that's part of the deal. When you come to the restaurant, you come for a whole experience. I'm not sure we could find a way to make it the same at your place. What we do is we, besides the delivery, if the people really want to have the full experience, is that we do catering. And it means that we can go to people's place with our machines and a chef, and then we are going to make the crepes at their place.
This is new? This is new because of the virus? This is new post-virus?
No,
Okay.
It's not new. But this is something that we've been doing in the past sometimes, and that now we are also pushing, let's say, because some people like this experience. So of course we are not going to do it for 1 or 2 person. That would be too costly for them, I guess. But if there is a group of let's say 30, 40 people gathering, which becomes possible now. I think it's something that many people could be interested in, because what the people like is that they can order on the spot, and we do the crepes on the spot in front of them, so there is like an animation. So if there is like a birthday party, for example, or any kind of celebration, the people would be very happy. And then it's not only a question of making and serving the food there, but we can also allow the people to try to make the crepes, which is also fun. And the people really enjoy that.
True. So we talked about the time during the crisis, and you had a spot where you can compare 3 different locations: Shanghai, Hong Kong, Ho Chi Minh. How do you feel the crisis was managed differently from different cities? And what tips do you get from those cities that could be useful for people now in Europe or in the US while looking at the time when people will come back, or things will go to a new normal, because we know it's not going to go back to normal. It's going to back to a new normal.
Yeah, I think that's a very complicated question to answer. I think the visibility today on the market is still not clear. The markets are different between Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Saigon. Even in terms of response from governments on the restrictions. In Shanghai, it's been very affecting because we had to shut down. In Hong Kong, we didn't have to shut down. In Saigon, we had to shut down, but we can still do delivery on takeaway. In Hong Kong, we didn't have to shut down, and we could have some customers coming, but of course, many just didn't want to go out. So the business was very little. Now in Hong Kong, the restriction makes that we cannot have more than 50% of our restaurant full. So it means that 50% of the tables almost are unoccupied. So it makes the business very complicated because, of course, the sales are still not high enough to cover all costs.
How many people do you need in your restaurants to cover the cost? It needs to be 2/3 full, or what's the level at which you expect to cover all?
It will also depend of the spending of everyone, but I think we need to be almost full because the cost is so high for the rent, particularly. If you in Hong Kong, if you don't have a business that is really working very well, it's very hard to keep alive. So yes, we just hope that it's going to come back soon. There are good signs. Last weekend, for example, this weekend was very good. We had many people coming, and so it shows that we are in the right direction. We just hope that there will be no new wave of cases coming. That's always the risk, and we have to live with it. In Shanghai, we see that it's already one step ahead compared to Hong Kong. I think the people are, from the feedback I have, because I've not been to Shanghai, in fact, for several weeks now, but the feedback from my teams show that more and more people are coming back to the restaurants. People are willing to enjoy a bit more, feel less risky. I understood also that the Westerners maybe are more keen on going out than the locals, who are probably a bit more cautious. But we believe that it's going to come back, probably not as like a big jump after crisis, but something that will be more progressive in the time. But it's coming back. I think there is a trend on the. I'm not so convinced, like many people saying, things will be very different like before. I think most of the things will be the same as before, because people have a tendency to forget about the problems, which is a good thing, because so many problems happening. If we have to remember all of them all the time, that would be terrible. So I think in a country like China, where the economy is still good and developing, where I think everybody is still enjoying a better life the following year, I think things will come back quite to what it were before. That's my opinion. Of course, there will be some little changes happening, but it's not going to affect the global change in the economy of the country. Of course, there are problems, but China is strong. I think it's not going to be a big problem in the long term, let's say.
Yeah, it makes me feel that China is following a V curve, like went down when it's coming up, and Hong Kong is like a W curve because it had problem 2 months ago. Then things went back. I was in Hong Kong 1.5 months ago, and things were pretty okay actually. People were going to gym to like normal, and then now it's still more strict again. So indeed, we see a bit of different. I feel different perspective from Hong Kong and mainland China. I like to go back to the beginning, because that's not the first crisis actually you went through. You used 2008 just after you started actually. Yes. 2010 was not that good neither. So you went through different crises, but I'd like to go to the start. You had no experience in a restaurant when you opened in 2007. And you actually worked before in optics, glasses. Would you mind telling us What was in your mind at the beginning? Was it opportunistic? Was it something you planned for some time and then you were able to put everything together? How was the beginning?
In fact, yes, I am not from the F&B business at the beginning. I was in the optical business, and I was sent by my company in France to open a subsidiary in Shanghai in 2004. And I was in charge of all the region of Asia Pacific for the so there's some subsidiaries and some distributors. And in fact, even before that, I was traveling a lot because I was export director for this company. And I think at some point of time, I wanted to stop traveling so much, but still meet people because this is what I love. And one of the idea I had then was to, maybe I should just settle in Shanghai, stop traveling all around and make a business where the people will come to me rather than me going to see them. And I studied different projects. And very naturally, I would say one that really popped up is La Creperie, because I'm originally from Brittany. So, and Brittany is really the region in France where we do all these kind of crepes and galettes, it's like the savory crepes. And I knew at that time there were a lot of people missing this food in Shanghai, and many Brittany people in Shanghai. So I decided to a bit to change my life, and going from the expat life with what it is behind in terms of budget to be a new entrepreneur. But I did it with knowing a lot of people already in Shanghai who could really support me in my venture. I think that's something that was very important at that time, because I had already been in Shanghai for several years. So I had some network. I knew I had already opened a business, so I knew how to do that. But after I had to learn everything about the F&B, and that was quite also a challenge, but it was really a passion. And since then, I never gave up this passion.
What was the other ideas you were looking at, and how did you compare to them?
Well, the first idea I had was to open a bakery. Because at that time, there were not so many people talking about bakeries, French bakeries. But I learned that there was Paul at the time, the big French baker coming to China and to Shanghai with big money on the wheel to invest and develop. So a few people I knew at that time told me, well, maybe it's not a good idea right now because it would be a too big competitor for me. So I decided to quit, even though my grandfather was a baker. So it was not easy to forget that idea. And then I had the second idea was to open a fine grocery. So in fact, there was also no fine grocery at that time in Shanghai. So I went in France to find a lot of products, and I went quite far also in that project. But also there I had some friends in the logistics who told me, well, Philippe, it's not easy to import products in China. There are many times they will be stuck in the customs, and then if you have perishable goods, then for sure it's very dangerous. You have big risk that you are going to lose everything. And the rules are changing very often. So finally, I decided to also give up on that project. So the third project was La Creperie. And I say, okay, this one I'm not going to give it up. I'm going to go to the end of it. And that was the beginning of that story.
Got it. And how did it evolve the business from 2007 to now? I see a couple of evolutions in your sector, and tell me if I'm correct or not. One is clients. Mainly foreigners, mainly French, to maybe half or 2/3 of Chinese now. I was at your restaurant yesterday on Dongpinglu, and I think it was like a strong half of Chinese. You have like 4 or 5 people eating alone, actually, and Chinese. You had 2 or 3 couples of friends eating, and you have a French family. And so it was quite mixed, but it was a strong half of Chinese. For La Cabane was similar, a strong half, even 2/3 of Chinese. I believe that's one evolution. Second element is that when we talk about 2008, we all think about the financial crisis, but in China, for food and beverage, there was another crisis, is the infant formula crisis. And when this infant formula scandal happened in China, then China became much more stricter on food and food safety, controlling much more. That started in 2008. So that's another evolution as well in how to run your business, to have a much more strict rules than at the beginning. Could you tell us what's your perception on the evolution of running a restaurant from 2007 to now?
Yes, it's true that there have been ups and downs because of the crisis. But I think what our strength was that we were able to adapt quite quick to our environment because we remain a small business, a small group. So even I open other restaurants, I try to manage my business with a lot of flexibility on try to adapt very, very fast. I think that's the main key. After it's what also I've tried to do all the time is we are always focusing on quality. And quality is not about only the things that you see in the service or in your dish. It's also all what is behind in terms of process, in terms of hygiene rules, in terms of knowledge of our staff, of training. I think it's very, very important that all the things that the customer doesn't see is also very well organized and controlled. It's because I think this is very, very important for me because I come from a background. I had a big experience in Johnson & Johnson, for example. So it's a health oriented, and it's a company with a lot of ethics. And I think this is something that for me is very important. It's not only superficial. I think what we try to do is that even in in the back office, I would say, in the kitchen, everything that we do, we try to make it very clean. We try to make it well done, as probably what a customer is expecting, what it should be. Yeah. So after, I was also lucky to have people with me who are very strong, who have a lot of competence, who are very in different fields. And that of course is helping a lot. It's not Philippe alone, it's Philippe with his team. And it's without a strong team, it would be also very difficult to move. Yeah.
How has evolved the clients? Is it true to say that it was mainly foreigners and now it's much more mixed with Chinese and maybe a majority of Chinese? And what's the perception of your restaurants toward Chinese? Because I'm not sure it's very well known that crepes are from Brittany within China, right? So you have to talk about it, to explain it, or what image do they have about your restaurant?
I think we yeah, we have a very good mix now of customers, foreigners and locals in every city where we work, and it's really true in Shanghai. At the very beginning, yes, we had mostly French people coming, and then more and more foreigners, and then locals. We can even say now that in one of our restaurants, in the one on Taojianglu, it's like 50-50 maybe. But it's even more in more locals in the mall of Real. Because it's maybe 18 and 85, 90% Chinese coming. So it took some time for sure to make the people know about our products. But I think with the time, I think we were able to gain more confidence, more, I would say, people get to know our place from France. There are many, like, for example, French families or French companies who are bringing their staff or their friends to our place. And that makes our place more known from the locals, that's for sure. And something that I really enjoyed is when they come to our restaurant, for example, on Dongpinglu, Taojianglu, exactly. We have a big map on the wall, and many people, whether they are from Brittany or they would know Brittany because they go there for their holidays in France, then they would love to show to their Chinese friends, oh look, this is Brittany and this is where I like to go, and yeah, they would tell a lot of stories about it, and this is really nice because this is why I opened this restaurant. It's because there is a big culture behind. It's because there is there are many stories to tell about this region of Brittany and the culture.
That's
so,
it.
Yep.
You found the thing to add in your box to deliver a napkin with a map of Brittany.
Yes, that could be nice.
One question I had is, I feel that a restaurant business is not easy to scale, but you did it with 3 restaurants, and actually you did it internationally with Vietnam and Hong Kong. How do you scale a restaurant? What's the economy of scale? Because I feel you need to restart again. In Hong Kong, you need to restart with everything. You need to find new clients. You need to find a new place. The only thing you get from your experience in Shanghai is intuition. You have the intuition of things that work and don't work. You have the sourcing of food and material, because also one thing that people may not know if they have not been in your restaurant, it's very well decorated. And since I know the restaurant, it's all, the chairs are the same. I mean, they're the same style. I believe you have to replace some of them, but they're still the same style. And as you said, the salt, the paper, it's very Brittany style and so on. So you have those assets, but that's it. You don't have more scale. When you sell a product, you can sell the product everywhere. You just have to export it, to go through the borders and to export it. So how do you scale this kind of business? What's the use of scaling?
Yes, there are many people who told me in the past, Philippe, why don't you centralize a certain number of services or open a central kitchen or these kind of things? But I've never been much into this because I think it increases the cost a lot. And before you do this, I think you need to have a lot of restaurants open to make it really efficient. I think it's when you work with on different countries, then it's even more difficult. So we don't make any much savings because of the scale, I would say. We have to restart a bit from scratch everything in every restaurant or every city. But we are quite strong anyway at controlling our cost. on the experience from the first restaurants help us to negotiate better for our rents, for our products with our suppliers. We know also better the where we can get the quality we need. We can get more, this for sure, because for example, we sell a lot of cider, apple cider, because this is the main drink in our restaurants. So I have suppliers in France from who I order directly. Because of the volume that we do, we are able to get some good prices. So that's one thing we can do.
I'd like to stop on one thing. You said that you learn how to negotiate with landlord. I think that's a topic that would interest a lot of people. How do you negotiate with a landlord in Shanghai? To give a bit an idea, we did some research on the cost of renting restaurant. When we look at another restaurant, an Italian restaurant, it's about 88,000 RMB for 100 square meter per month, and it represents something like 16 to 20% of the revenues. That's something I have, that it's about 15 to 20% of the revenues in rent. And that's much more than New York, for instance. But on the other hand, the labor cost is lower. So the structure of cost is different as far as we understand in the restaurant business. Could you tell us, so how do you negotiate with a landlord? Do you sign a contract for 10 years so he is stable with an increase every year? What's the way of negotiating?
I think it's always a very complex strategy to get the best from the landlords. So it will depend a lot about the locations, on the size of the place. But one chance we have is that we have quite a unique concept. So it happens also regularly that some malls, for example, or some different locations are asking us to come.
Interesting.
Or if we are competing with some other restaurants or other shops, other brands, I would say, we have some advantage here, because first, we are not new on the market. We have some experience, and we can show that our business is profitable, and then means that we can pay our rent every month, and we are stable in the time. So, and that's what also some landlords are looking for, because we are not a challenge for them. Like we don't pay, or we pay very late, or then they need to find another tenant, or so we can show this.
I see.
Also, I think I have a background also from business. So of course, one of my duty when I was in other companies was to negotiate. So I have probably some skills from that experience. And now it's with every landlord, it's going to be a different negotiation, I guess.
Did you get a discount because of the crisis?
With some of them, I would say yes. With some of those, there are tougher bones. Not that easy. But yes, globally we can manage.
I interviewed a lawyer in another podcast we have called Dasher Talks. It's another format and he told me that some people got 1 month rent for free when they were renting to the government. If the place is owned by the government, like the month of February was for free, and that other people, he was more talking about offices, got a 20%, 30% discount on their rent for the rest of the year. So is it something similar you are experiencing, like 1 month for free or 1 month half, or a lower the rent for the rest of the year?
Yes, in fact, it depends on the locations. There are locations where we could get 1 month free. There are locations who said they would give something, but we are still waiting. Even they gave some details about what they would offer. We are still negotiating and still waiting for some feedback on this. We got some already confirmation, but we need more. That's for this more that we are waiting. I think it's very, very important. I think the fight is everywhere the same for the tenants. Is that if the economy, the environment is falling apart for some times, all the tenants need some support from their landlords, because it's just impossible to survive otherwise. In Hong Kong, we were lucky to have some subsidies from the government also. So that is really helpful.
How was it? Was money given to you? Was a loan given to you? What was it?
Yeah, it was money given by the government on a very short time after the application. It was really, really good. We were also lucky to have someone like Li Ka-shing, who is one of the richest men in Hong Kong, who also helped at some point of time to the F&B business. So that's really good for us. Every small thing is welcome. In Shanghai, I know we have also some support from the government, who is postponing some payments.
Access.
We have, I guess they are also pushing probably the landlords to give some support. And it's true that as the government in China is controlling a lot of real estate, then it's also quite easy for them to push it. So yes, we need all this help for sure.
You mentioned something I'm very interested in, is that you said that some department stores, malls are asking you to join. They are proactively contacted you because you have been in the place for some time, and they recognize you as a brand. So that's something I had the feeling you have built a brand. How do you? What was your idea? That was your idea initially. How did you build this brand like Creperie? It was structured in your mind initially, or it happened naturally that it was recognized as a brand?
No, to be honest, it came after. I think what I really wanted at the beginning is to be in my restaurant on stay there for some time, and really enjoy the contact with all my customers. Many of them becoming friends, and it was that's what I really had in mind at that time. It's to really enjoy the work, even as the becoming a waiter, becoming a bartender, becoming I did all the jobs in the restaurant. I just didn't touch to the kitchen too much because I think it was better to have a real pro in to take care of it. And I was so much I would say interested in being on the floor, on talk with my customers. That's where I wanted to be. After I think it came quite naturally later on that I developed the brand from the time when I opened the second restaurant in 2010 in Hong Kong. We were very successful from the beginning there. And then we decided to open another one. And then, then it's one more. And then it's true that, with the fact that I really wanted something very consistent from one restaurant to another one in terms of image, because I wanted the people to experience the same thing. I wanted them to really feel like they go to Brittany when they come to our place. So of course, I tried to design a lot of things that would make the people travel and feel the same if they are in Shanghai or in Hong Kong or in Ho Chi Minh City. On that, that's the way naturally the brand came up. Yeah.
Did you get the trademark La Creperie in all those countries? Because I believe it naturally, when something have lasted for some time and you are successful, you get copied with similar name or same name.
Yes, La Creperie is a registered trademark. But yeah, I think it's to copy, as we say always, to copy is not only a question of making crepes. It's a full concept, and I think people can easily recognize if it's a real one or a fake one, because there are many details that the people can see when they are in the restaurant. And it's true that when they come to Shanghai or Hong Kong or Ho Chi Minh cities, they would immediately feel the same spirit. They will see the quality of the dish. There are some brands for the cider that we use where we have some exclusivity. So it's quite easy to recognize our brand, I think, today.
When you opened in Vietnam, was it because you had someone over there who was maybe worked with you in Shanghai and had to go to Vietnam? Or this is because you had the idea that the French community was big enough or the foreign community was big enough to start also in Vietnam? What was in your mind because it's far away, it's complicated to manage. You have like three locations to manage, Hong Kong being special, but you have different legislation still. It's very, very different types of managing businesses.
Yes, that's right. I think I developed my business a lot at the beginning with opportunities, meaning that I had someone coming to my restaurant in Shanghai who loved La Creperie in Shanghai, and he was not living in China. He was living in France, but his wife was Vietnamese. And he had a son in the F&B business in France. And then he told me, okay, Philippe, I love your restaurant. And my wife and my kid, they would love to go back to Vietnam to work there. And so do you think we could do something together? And that's the way we approached that market. And we made the study and so that, yes, indeed, there were a lot of French people living in Ho Chi Minh City. It was a dynamic city. So we thought, that could be great. Yeah, for sure. There is a good potential in that city for La Creperie.
What stops you from franchising? Because I feel that's a bit what you did in Vietnam, that in sort of franchising with your branding, your sourcing. When you do a franchise, you bring the branding, you bring the sourcing very often, and the way to easy decorate with some material and so on your restaurant.
Yes, So far, it's been a kind of franchise. Yes, it works like a franchise, even though I have some shares in every restaurant. But I have partners also for most of these restaurants. And I try. What I think what is important for me is beyond the franchise system is on all the process that go with that. I try to bring a soul in all my restaurants. That's something that is very important for me. Is that every restaurant, even you can recognize you're in La Creperie. They all have their own soul, brought by their team, by their manager, by the partners. Because I don't want to just make a copy paste. I think I think the soul of a restaurant is very important. We are not a fast food. We are not fine dining. We are a bit in the middle, like we are a traditional restaurant. And I think the contact of the manager or the team or the chef with the customers is very important. It creates a relationship that we love.
Because you invest in money into it and you invest time as well into a new restaurant, even if you may share the equity, what would convince you if someone comes to you to give him your branding, give him your knowledge, and actually give him some money to start as well?
There are several things which are important. I think the main point today for me is to feel good with the person I have in front of me. I think it's because when you start a business, it's going to be for many years. So the money is, of course, important, but it's far from being everything. Money comes and goes. But the person you have in front of you is going to stay there for a while and is not going to change that much. So it's super important for me to have someone I can talk with who is very open, easy to talk to. Not everything is positive, I would say, during a business life. So there are some very complicated decisions to take sometimes, and we need to be able to talk about them easily, friendly, so we can move on in some good conditions.
You talk about personality. It's mainly personality, right? You talk a lot about the personality, mainly about personality. But what makes you believe that business plan is going to work, that it's going to be successful at some point? I understand that it may be for years, but at some point it has to be successful. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time and money. How do you come up with numbers? Do you do some research on how many French people are in each city? And what would you look at? What are your criteria?
It depends. I would say now it depends where I open. There are places that I know quite well because I've been living in these places for many years, like Shanghai or Hong Kong. Saigon, I know also a bit less than Hong Kong and Shanghai. So, of course, we need a study. We need to understand what's going on in the district, in the city. But I think it's like it's marketing. It's you can put on the paper a lot of things about what's going on. On marketing, we just help you to ask yourself a lot of questions for your market study. But it could also bring you to the time where there is no end to these questions. I mean, and also because the environment is changing all the time. So I think for me now, what is very important is to have a good knowledge. I would say good global knowledge about what's happening, but also not to think too much long term. I think it's very important today to control the fixed cost because you never know. Like the virus, like the protests in Hong Kong, well, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 or 4 years today. But if you were not able to control your fixed cost, then it's going to kill you for sure. I think that's today the main idea I keep in my mind from this experience. Having enough flexibility in your business to be able to survive the bad time. Yeah.
We are close to 1 hour of talk, and you have sustained 1 hour. You were, before we started, we say how long we have to survive. It's like 1 hour. It's already 1 hour. You survived. I have a few questions. I end the talk usually. It's and I think Sophia sent to you before. First one is about the books which inspired you in business, as an entrepreneur. Would you mind sharing a few resources? Could be a book, could be also other resources like newspapers or blogs.
Okay, well, it's a bit difficult for me to talk about some specific books or reviews. In fact, I try to diversify a lot the things I read. So it's, of course, there is part in the business, but business is mostly about the economy. I would say what's happening, like for sure today, I think everybody is focusing on when is the COVID going to disappear, so finally we can come back to a normal life. And even for this, I mean, I try to follow different sources to compare and to have maybe to get a better understanding. So I would, for example, read something on the Washington Post here, or I would read some notes from the government. I would also read some articles from different newspapers in France, like Figaro or Le Monde, or Monde Diplomatique even. I get also a lot of insights from my Chinese wife. So because I don't read Chinese, so she can help me with that. And it's good to have, I mean, the different point of view from different.
You work together with your wife?
No, she.
You work together with your wife on the restaurant?
No, she's not working in the restaurant. Okay. Yeah. So yes, it's yes, but I think it's good also to escape from work. So it's also what something I love to do is to really read some what we call in French récit de voyage. So it's like a travel experience from different people around the world, and that's for me important. That's what I like to do in my restaurants. In fact, is to make the people travel when they come here, and I also need myself to read something that makes me.
I see you're really from Brittany, because people from Brittany are said to travel all over the world, and they are said to be actually all over the world. That's some of the strongest community of French over the world. I would like to end with two last questions, but I will ask at the same time, both of them. What success you have witnessed in China, and what failure you have witnessed in China? Not about yourself, about what you have seen that was surprising to you. Why I'm asking this question is because when you look at success which was surprising or failure which was surprising, very often it gives an idea of what's changing. It gives it's a signal of a bigger picture of something which is changing. I arrived in China 10 years ago. People were paying cash when they get delivered from online. Now it looks like Middle Ages. You pay with WeChat and Alipay. That's a success I wouldn't have expected. What about you? What success and failure did you see that you did not expect?
I think there is one thing that I could mention. It was in 2010 during the International Expo. That's already a few years ago. But I experienced that time in Shanghai, and I must say that I was very impressed with the way China is able to organize events and make a very successful experience for people. I think this event helped a lot Shanghai to really open. It was already open, of course, to foreigners, but I think that time made it even more open. For me, I mean, I think I would speak a bit more global. I think I am very amazed by the way China is moving on. It's very fast. Of course, nothing is perfect anywhere, even in France. But I think the way they are doing in China is incredible. because managing 1,300,000,000 people is certainly not the simplest thing, and they do it. And everybody is moving. So we all know that there might be some big challenge ahead for them because of the economy, but still, I think they have this power to build, and this power to rebound. I mean, which is very strong. I think that's what I like in China. There is, this dynamic. People are very different from China, or even maybe Hong Kong, or even Vietnam. Everybody has its specificities. For me, I am almost more international than French today, because I've been living a lot overseas or traveling a lot. Of course, I love my roots, but I love to see the difference between the countries, the people, and I see everybody is doing quite great, in fact, compared to all the problems that he is facing. And I think China is particularly doing well when we look at all the problems they have to face because of such a big community.
Yeah, I remember when Nicolas Sarkozy met with Hu Jintao, he asked him, "What do you think about when you shave in the morning?" Because a journalist asked him before, and Hu Jintao said, "I'm thinking of 1.4 billion feet which are going to touch the ground." And indeed, the massive amount of people is something which has been managed, seems to be managed very well. You talked about success, but what about the failure? You talked about Paul. And some way, Paul came with a lot of money, means, and they didn't succeed. What about a failure in China which has surprised you?
Well, I would say that there has been a lot of success and failures, of course, along the road. Even in my own company, I opened, but I also closed some restaurants.
How many did you close?
I closed the 2 restaurants for very different reasons.
Yeah, one in Hong Kong.
Taiwan. Three with the last one, but I would say one in Taiwan, one in Phnom Penh. I opened in Phnom Penh several years ago. Too early for the market. Taiwan was probably a wrong location. As we say for the restaurant industry, location is a key point.
What's Taipei, right?
Yeah, in Taipei, that's right. And Hong Kong, I would say Hong Kong is we had to close, but we had no choice because we were kicked out from the building. But yeah, failures is part of the business. I mean, I think if you don't close anything at some point of time, you are very lucky. And I don't know many people who it didn't happen. So failures now, if I need to say one example that I have in mind, of course, is one that everybody had that saw a few years ago in Shanghai is Farine, the case of the baker. So well, I would not talk about the reason of this failure, but that was a very tough time after a big success for many years. Nobody could expect this. Yeah.
And indeed, to people who don't know, Farine was a very, very successful bakery, and it was shut down again seems from some hygiene things, and it brought a lot of doubt into a community, foreign community, about managing a business in Shanghai, and it had been very successful before, but actually that no other case happened since then that massive and that talked about. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Philippe, for your time. I hope that things are going to go back to normal, or a new normal, as people are using now, and that we are getting out of this virus. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening.
Yes, it was nice to talk to you. Hopefully, my words will help some others. And I wish all the best to everyone to cross the crisis.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.